I was working the closing shift at Domino's when a man walked into the store around 11:30 at night. He looked like he had been awake for days. His hair was messy, his clothes were dirty, and there was a small car on his cheek. He wasn't acting drunk exactly, but he was definitely not completely sober either. He ordered a large pepperoni pizza. When I asked for his address, he didn't give me one. He took a piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to me. The address was written in pen. My manager looked at it and said, "That's pretty far out." The man just nodded. "I'll pay cash." He paid for the pizza and left. About 20 minutes later, I was driving toward the address. It was outside the main part of town where the houses were spread apart and most of the roads didn't have street lights. The GPS took me down a road I'd never been on before. After a few minutes, I noticed an old pickup truck behind me. I didn't think much of it at first. Then I turned onto another road. The pickup followed. I made another turn. It followed again. I slowed down. So did the truck. At that point, I started wondering if it was actually following me. I didn't want to turn around because I still had a delivery to make, so I kept going. Eventually, the pickup turned off. I could see the address ahead of me. It was a small house sitting by itself. There were no lights on. I parked in the driveway and grabbed the pizza. Before I reached the door, it opened. The same man from the restaurant was standing there. He looked at me for a second. Then he looked past me at my car. "You're from Domino's?" "Yeah." He didn't say anything. He just stared toward the road. I handed him the pizza. He took it but didn't move. Then he asked, "Did anyone follow you?" I thought he was joking. No." He looked at the road again. Then he said, "Okay." He closed the door. I walked back to my car. That's when I noticed the pickup truck again. It was parked about 100 yards away with its headlights off. I stood there for a second. The truck didn't move. I got into my car and locked the doors. I started the engine. The pickup turned its headlights on. I backed out of the driveway. It started moving too. I drove slowly toward the main road. The truck stayed behind me. I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't want to call the police over something that might have been completely innocent. So I drove toward the gas station I'd passed earlier. The gas station was still open and had several cars parked outside. As soon as I turned into the parking lot, the pickup drove past without stopping. I watched it disappear down the road. I sat there for a few minutes. Then I called my manager. I told him what happened. He asked me if I still had the delivery address. I read it to him. There was a long pause. Then he said something that I didn't expect. "That's weird." Apparently the address had been used for a delivery a few nights earlier. Another driver had gone there and called the store afterward because he couldn't find anyone at the house. The order had been paid for with cash. My manager said he assumed the driver had simply gone to the wrong place. I told him about the pickup truck. He told me not to back there. The next morning, the manager called the police and gave them the address. A few days later, an officer contacted the store. They had checked the property. The man who lived there had been away for several weeks. Nobody should have been at the house that night. The officer also told us that the pickup had been reported stolen. They didn't know who had been driving it. That was the part that stayed with me. The man at the house knew I was coming. He knew I was alone. And when I arrived, the first thing he asked was whether someone had followed me. I thought he was worried about the same truck I had noticed. Now I'm not so sure. I don't know who that man was. I don't know who was driving the pickup. And I don't know what would have happened if I'd stayed at that house another 5 minutes. I only know that I never delivered another pizza after midnight.
I almost didn't stop. That's the part that keeps bothering me. I saw the sign for the rest area and thought about just pushing through. I was already behind schedule trying to make it across Montana before the storm got worse. The radio had been repeating the same warning for the past hour: whiteout conditions, limited visibility, avoid unnecessary stops. But I was tired and the road had gone quiet. Too quiet. So I took the exit. The rest stop was deeper in the trees than I expected. No lights except one flickering pool near the building. The parking lot was mostly empty except for one car. It was parked off to the side, covered in snow, not lightly dusted, covered like it had been sitting there for a while. Engine off, no lights, no movement. I remember thinking it was weird, but not weird enough. I parked closer to the entrance, left my engine running, and stepped out. The cold hit instantly, sharp, dry, the kind that burns your throat. I walked up to the building and grabbed the door handle. It didn't open. At first I thought it was stuck. I pulled harder, still nothing. Then I noticed something. The door wasn't locked. Something was pushing back from the inside. I froze. I didn't knock, didn't speak. I just stood there, hand on the handle, feeling the resistance. Whoever was on the other side was holding it shut, not moving, not reacting. Just there. I let go slowly, took a step back, and that's when I realized how quiet everything was. No wind for a second, no sound at all. Then, from somewhere behind me, footsteps. I turned. A man was walking out of the storm. I hadn't seen him before. He wasn't running, wasn't struggling against the snow, just walking straight toward me, slow, calm. He had a phone to his ear, talking or pretending to. I couldn't hear words, just the motion of his mouth. And then he smiled. It didn't look right, not friendly, not casual, too wild, too deliberate, like he knew something I didn't. I didn't wait. I turned and walked quickly back to my car. Not running, just fast enough to not look obvious. I got in, locked the doors immediately, and put the car in reverse. That's when I saw the second man. He came around the side of the building, closer to the entrance, looking straight at me. No phone, no expression, just watching. My tires slipped as I tried to back out. The snow was thicker than I thought. The engine revved, but the car barely moved. I looked up. The first man was closer now, still smiling, still talking on the phone. Then something hit my windshield, hard, a loud crack. I flinched for a second. I thought the glass shattered, but it didn't. I looked. A knife. It had hit the windshield and dropped into the hood. That was it. I slammed the gas. The tires spun again, then finally caught. The car jerked backward almost sideways, then straightened just enough. I didn't look at them again. I just drove. I don't remember the first few miles. Just white road, tight grip on the wheel. Heart not slowing down. Eventually, I got signal back. Called the police, told them everything. Location, 2 men. The rest stopped, the car covered in snow. The knife. They asked me to keep driving, said units were on the way. A few hours later, I got a call back. They found the rest stop, found the car, the one covered in snow. It belonged to a man reported missing earlier that week. Last known location, that same highway. They didn't find the 2 men, no sign of them in the area, no footprints they could follow. The storm had covered everything. The officer asked me a few more questions, then paused and said something that stuck with me. He said, "You are not the first person to report something strange on that stretch of road." I asked what that meant. He didn't really answer. Just told me I was lucky I didn't stay. I still think about the doors sometimes, about the person holding it shut from the inside, not trying to get out, not making a sound, just making sure I didn't get in.
I used to love staying home alone when I was younger. Most kids I knew were scared of it, but I liked the quiet. That changed after our dog disappeared. His name was Rusty. Old Mutt, big enough to make strangers nervous. But honestly, he was lazy most of the time. Still, every night he'd sleep near the back door, like it was his job. We lived way out in northern Minnesota, just wood everywhere. The kind of place where you don't hear traffic at night, only wind and trees. Closest neighbor was probably a 10-minute drive away. Rusty went missing about a week before this happened. Dad thought maybe a wolf got him. We looked for him for 2 days straight and never found anything. No collar, nothing. After that, the house started feeling wrong at night. Not haunted or anything stupid like that. Just empty in a bad way. Without the dog around, every little sound suddenly stood out. Pipes creaking, floors settling, branches hitting the siding, stuff I'd probably heard 1,000 times before but never paid attention to. One Friday night, my parents drove into town to see my aunt. I stayed home because I had school stuff to finish and didn't feel like sitting around adults all night. I was downstairs playing Xbox when I heard the back door open. I remember immediately pausing the game because the sound was so specific. The handle turning slowly, then the door dragging slightly across the floor. Then it shut again. I sat there listening for a second, thinking maybe my parents forgot something and came back, but I never heard a car. I got up and checked the kitchen. Nothing. The door was closed. What freaked me out was the deadbolt. I know I locked it earlier after taking the trash outside. Now it was unlocked. At that point, I still wasn't fully panicking. I figured maybe I forgot, locked it again, and went back downstairs. About 10 minutes later, I heard footsteps upstairs. Not loud, just a couple slow steps. I actually called out, "Mom?" before my brain caught up and remembered they weren't home. That was the moment I started getting nervous. I muted the TV and listened. Nothing. Then maybe 30 seconds later, I heard another step, slow enough that it sounded careful. I grabbed my phone for the flashlight and walked into the kitchen again. The back door was cracked open maybe 2 inches. Cold air was coming inside, and I swear I never heard it open. That's the part that still bothers me. The house was quiet enough that I should have heard every little movement. I shut and locked the door again, then grabbed the kitchen knife because honestly I didn't know what else to do. I started checking rooms even though I really didn't want to. Laundry room, empty. Bathroom, empty. My parents' room, empty. Then I noticed mud on the floor near the hallway. Not a lot, just a few dirty footprints. Fresh enough that the dirt was still wet. I remember staring at them thinking, okay, somebody is actually in this house. Not maybe, not paranoia. Somebody had walked through our kitchen. Right when I pulled my phone out to call my dad, I heard something upstairs. It sounded like someone brushing against a wall. I looked up toward the hallway and saw movement for maybe half a second, like somebody pulling back out of sight. That's when I completely lost it. I called my dad, whispering because for some reason I thought whoever was upstairs could hear me. He kept saying, "What? Slow down." When he finally understood me, his voice changed immediately. He told me to leave the house now. Then I heard a heavy step directly above me. Not creaking floorboards, an actual footstep. Then another one. Slow. Like whoever it was knew I was downstairs. I backed toward the front door without taking my eyes off the ceiling, and right then I heard the back door open behind me again. I spun around expecting someone to be standing there. Nobody. The door was moving slowly like someone had just gone out seconds earlier. I ran barefoot all the way down the dirt road carrying my phone and the knife like an idiot. I waited near the highway until my parents and the cops got there. Police searched the whole property. Didn't find anyone. But they did find muddy footprints through the downstairs and inside the little storage closet near the laundry room. Nothing had been stolen.
That's the part that still creeps me out. Whoever was in there wasn't trying to rob us. Before the cops left, one of them asked how long our dog had been gone. I told him about a week. He said they found older muddy tracks near the back of the house mixed with brown dog hair. I didn't sleep at home for almost a month after that because Rusty hated strangers, and if somebody had been coming around our house before that night, I honestly think Rusty was the reason we noticed too late.